We are live. Hello and welcome to Ishi's Great Big Alien Show. That's right. We're live and visual since you seem to love the visuals so damn much. Since you just love seeing our faces. Here we are. What do you think? We pretty?
I think we're pretty.
Yes.
You're
pretty.
certainly pretty.
So anyway, since we're here at the Great Big Alien Show, tonight's topic, vampires. We're going to do something a little bit different.
Besides the visuals.
Beside the visuals, yes. Seems our follows are tanking. I don't know if that's YouTube's fault or if you just hate us. So if you're not following us, follow us. Not only that, retweet that we're on. Share it on your social media. Let everyone know we're around because YouTube hates us. And while you're at it, go into the description and see that we have got 3 fine t-shirts for sale of the Great Big Alien Show. You'll want one. You most definitely will.
Indeed.
So, starting the show off, let's see. Let's do some questions.
Well, the first question is from Cesario. Are there any ancient history points that the Greys will categorically deny having a hand in?
The death of Elvis.
Well, that then begs the next question. Is Elvis human?
Yeah, why?
Okay, just making it. A lot of people think that he's not, especially after that Men in Black movie.
Well, that's just a movie.
That's just a movie.
Come on. You know, it's really unfair to constantly credit everything to aliens. I mean,
I agree.
Let's face it. The music of Elvis is human. That is a human creation. Be damn proud of it.
I agree.
Okay? Now, the Big Bopper, I'll admit, wasn't human. I don't know what the fuck Big Bopper was, but something was wrong with that thing.
Was he somebody who had a day pass and just never went home?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe he was a malfunctioning android, or so there was just something wrong with him.
Interesting.
I think he was related to that Conky robot from Pee-wee's Playhouse.
Oh my God, Conky.
Okay, so.
Trenton, follow up.
No, we gotta. No. First question.
Trenton's first question. An ancient alien question. According to the Sumerians, humans were created to be slaves for the gods. So is slavery in our DNA? Is that why we had so much to strive with slavery?
No. See, it's a yes and no sort of thing. Okay, first off, the answer, yes and no. Remember, Sumeria was a bit of a melting pot for that region, ethnically speaking. Sumer was populated from everyone, people migrated from as far south as Green Sahara to as far north as Turkey. So it was very, very mixed. And when the Reptoids showed up about 6,000 years ago, they established a very strong presence in Africa and the Middle East. And yes, they did meddle with the genetics of some of the local peoples. And because they're complete assholes, they also claimed that they were gods and that they told the Sumerians that they had created them. And by the way, we created you as slaves, so you got to do what we want because, let's face it, they're dicks.
Okay, and the follow-up question. If this is true, can we all come together to go into deep space and make these gods pay restitution for all on Earth?
Fuck yeah. In fact, I encourage it. It was not it was not the original reason my people, the Greys, started accelerating your evolution as a species. But I'd be lying if I said the Greys weren't sort of hoping that you would assist us with our reptoid problem. As I've mentioned, my kind aren't the most physical bunch. We're short, we're frail, we're not very strong, and our psychic warfare capabilities only are going to take us so far. So having some allies that could physically go toe-to-toe with the big lizards, that would, I think, change the tide for us quite a bit. So what do you think? You into kicking some reptoid ass?
I'm into kicking some reptoid ass.
So, let's see if we got any quick follow-ups, and then
off to the show.
Off to the show.
Okay, so Elvis is not even half alien?
Nope, nope. He's just Southern.
He's just Southern.
I think that pretty much is it.
Owen, are you aware of the ninth sense? If so, were your people responsible for that?
The hell's the ninth sense?
I'm wrong. Last I heard, there was only a seventh. I mean, I didn't even know there was an eighth.
Oh, there's an eighth.
What's the eighth?
It's secret.
Oh.
Actually, no, it isn't. It's just what it is it's the ability to perceive the higher fifth and sixth dimension.
Oh, okay.
It's a perceptual thing. You guys just don't have the organs for it yet.
No, but that makes sense. No, that totally makes sense.
Okay.
Damien, is the guitarist Buckethead an alien?
No, he's just grossly deformed.
Is Buckethead like Sporkman?
Oh, you're not familiar with Buckethead?
No, I'm not. Is that like a Gwar character?
He's not a Gwar character, but he is a character.
Ooh, show me Buckethead. Oh my god.
He's a guitarist.
Oh wow.
And he does not speak.
I am not familiar with this individual.
Really? He speaks through his guitar.
He speaks through his guitar and he has Weird Al hair.
Yeah. And there's been rumors of who he really is. He's kind of like the Elephant Man.
Got it.
And he goes, ooh! That's all he can do.
So he's great for doing like tequila. Endless Nocturne. Welcome to the Great Big Alien Show. This is a lighthearted stream to talk about xenos and supernatural kind.
Yeah.
So unless you can prove Kamala Harris is a ghoul, avoid talking about that goblin.
No. Kamala Harris is a reptoid. Didn't you see that weird transformation she did on TV?
Which one?
It was a couple weeks ago, remember? She came back and her face looked like the Joker.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God, yeah. Like, oh, it was a Botox accident. It's like, would you fall and land on, like, a gross of needles?
Do you want one of these? One of these fine T-shirts?
Stand up for the fine.
Well, actually, this is the older version.
Oh, okay.
So it has this graphic, but the label's wrong.
Oh, okay.
I need to buy them myself. I want them.
Mm.
Actually, I want the one that has the all human question mark, especially.
I want that as well. Ishi also has masks as well for those of you who are required to wear them in public. You can do so in style. Artificial Joni. On a 1 to 10 scale, how accurate is Stargate?
8.
Yeah. 8.
An 8.
I would agree. Especially anything involving Egyptology.
Okay. Now, you know what? We're not getting into the zoonoids again, Owen. We've answered this question.
A coach of lunacy. As a reptoid, I say bring it. You Greys think you're so special with your ray guns and your warp technology.
Well, look, it depends on what kind of reptoid are you. Are you the reptoid cartels that came to Earth to farm humans for their adrenochrome? Or are you just from the reptoid homeworld? I mean, because the fact of the matter is not all reptoids are bad, just most of the ones that came here are akin to your Colombian cartels. They're assholes.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean that all the reptoids at their homeworld are dicks, because, you know, a lot of them, you don't blame all humans for the cartels.
No, just I blame the cartels for the cartels.
You know, I don't blame all humans for Kamala Harris.
You don't?
Yeah, okay, well. Who decided that she was going to give her skin to a reptilian?
Well, no, see, I blame her and her people. Okay. Law to Cesario. Last I checked, there is nothing in the California bar or state statute saying reptoids are ineligible.
Yeah, anyone could be eligible in California.
Yeah.
Even box turtles.
Even box turtles.
Okay, so real quickly, just
Wait. Panda asks Victoria if she's ever played Legacy of Kain. If you have not, Victoria, oh my fucking god, you do not know what you are missing. That is my absolute all-time 100% favorite video game series forever. I have a shirt that has the Cain symbol on it. I plan on getting tattoos. Yes, I am that obsessed with it. I can talk forever about the timeline of that series. It is probably one of the few pieces of fiction out there that, in my opinion, actually understands time travel. Yes, you need to have it if you haven't played it before. Okay, I'll rant about it later. Although Legacy of Kain is a wonderful segue into our topic this evening, because what does it have? It has vampires.
Does it really?
Yes, it does. Kain is a vampire.
But not really.
No, well, okay. Kain is a vampire, but he's not one of the vampires from... Yes, I'm going down this path. They have families and legacies of vampires as tradition dictates. Kain is the outlier. He's the one who basically decides, you know, fuck you, I'm putting the dick on the table and doing it my way, because he couldn't become a vampire, so he had a necromancer make him a vampire. So that's how he did it. So he's a brand new strain, and all of his progeny are a brand new strain, and that's part of why Raziel is so different. Mm. Besides the fact that they're animated corpses. But anyway. Damien, across human mythology, thunder gods battle elder dragons. Is it telling that in reptoid-driven Aztec mythos that the dragon is the thunder god?
Well, you know, the thing is the reptoids went really out of their way to take credit for everything. So anytime you've got a reptoid-dominated area, they're going to just kind of, you know, absorb all the local religions into themselves and try and rewrite it through their lens to make them the heroes. Or the badass motherfuckers. You take your pick.
Cooper Clark, are there any greys or reptoid relationships out there? Seriously, guys just kiss and make up already.
Look, the problem, it isn't the reptoids. I told you, them on their home world, no problem. Well, I don't know if we get along, but you know,
your side, my side.
It's another planet with another people. No big deal. It's just like us in the octopi. We whatever. It doesn't really matter. It's the ones here that are the problem. And I'm sure that there are gray ladies out there that are in for the green meat. I'm sure that is a thing. I wouldn't doubt that in the least. I mean, they're big, they're ripped.
Chicken.
You know, they're big, they're ripped, they're handsome. I mean, naturally, I could see why a gray lady would want to go for a big, burly, strapping reptoid. I get it. But no, there's a problem with the cartels. I mean, they were kidnapping, and they still are kidnapping my people and farming us for adrenochrome. They only showed up here because they realized you guys are an even better source.
Well, since you guys burnt out your head.
Well, yeah, actually it got so bad that one of the reasons we tampered with our genetics so much, and the reason we look so weird, is that we decided, you know what, we've had centuries and centuries and millennia of war with these fuckers, and they keep infiltrating and causing the same cycle over and over again. So we engineered ourselves into something they couldn't possibly mimic or corrupt. And that came with a price. So now they're farming you guys. So, okay. So for those who don't know, this is the show where I'm wearing the human suit, but where I essentially take off the human suit and you get the full gray, and I don't pretend to be a skeptic. I just speak the truth.
Yes.
It's all real. So let's talk about vampire.
Yes. So where shall we begin?
Okay, what qualifies as a vampire?
Basically, a vampire is a creature of mythology universally thought to drink the blood of humans, sometimes of children, but specifically of humans.
Okay, is that it?
That's pretty much it, yeah.
So undead doesn't have to be in there?
Nope, undead does not have to be in there. Sometimes it's just a creature that, you know, comes out of the wastes, the woods, folklore. Even some fays are thought of to be vampiric.
So they don't have to inhabit once dead people or mimic people?
No, the mimicking humans or taking over corpses definitely seems to be something more of Western legend, specifically Europe, starting in Eastern Europe and moving its way down through the centuries. In the East, it depends on where you are, but it's not universal that they start off as human corpses. In India and in the Philippines, oftentimes they're a witch or a creature that just came out of the wilderness to prey upon humans. Really, in China is the only legend I was able to find. So if other people know differently, please share with me. It was the only place that I was able to find of them originating as corpses.
So China and Europe.
Mm-hmm. Pretty much.
All right. So then on that note, what isn't a vampire?
Well, if it's not sucking human blood, it's not a vampire.
Okay, so then what if they sparkle?
Well, if I remember correctly, they weren't sucking human blood either. They could, but they chose not to.
I see. Okay, well then...
And the thing with sunlight, garlic, other things like that, that's regional. Yeah, that's not specific to any one type of vampiric being. But in Europe, they almost always were humans that were undead corpses. But that seems to be the universal thing.
And Janelle Penner wants to know if you're going to talk about how Hollywood essentially raped the concept of a horrific, scary-ass ruler into a flowery, bloodletting romance.
I can definitely rant about that. I can most definitely rant about that, Janelle. So what, do you want to start with that? Or
no, why the hell not? And then we can get into the real deal.
Well, first off, it really wasn't until, I would say, the modern era that vampires have become something that you would actually want to come across or actually want to be seduced by. Even in the vampire craze of the 1700s and most definitely in the 1800s, even with the Gothic romances, the vampire was a creature to be horrified by. It was definitely a symbol of forbidden love and definitely forbidden sex. But it was a creature to be abhorred and destroyed. It was not something that you wanted to, romance and seduce you like Lestat or Louis. So that's definitely something of the modern era within the last 50 years.
So what's the difference between a religious vampire, a sci-fi vampire, a paranormal vampire, and a supernatural?
Well, I'm going to say probably who you're talking to. But very easy thing is that if they're a scientific vampire, it's that their abilities or their bloodthirst or just basically their entire existence can be explained using science. If it can be explained using basic scientific method or basic medical terms, if it can be whittled down to things that you can put into a textbook, then it's a science vampire. In which case, in fiction, and depending on who you're talking to, nonfiction, anything goes as to what their limitations are or what their abilities are, because you're explaining it all with science. It doesn't have to be, it does not have to fit into a legend or mythology or religion or anything. It is whatever science can dictate.
Okay, so like Underworld is like the classic sci-fi vampire.
Very much so, yes.
When you have Black Plague caused it, it's essentially a retrovirus or a disease.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which most of them are, them saying that it's a virus that caused it. It's a mutation of the blood. The idea that they live forever is an exaggeration, that they actually it slows down the aging process for them because it does things to their genes, it does things to their blood, it does things to their cells. It's a retrovirus, whatever. They can go out in the sunlight, they can't. They can put on sunblock and they're fine. I mean, they can put on sunblock and they're fine. Yeah, Blade I would count as a science vampire. quite frankly,
Okay.
because they can put on sunblock and they can be fine. Blade uses a freaking light bulb to burn Pearl. That's, you know, even though there is a religious element to Blade, the types of vampires that they are science vampires. So, and that's okay. It's actually a neat spin on things, putting this esoteric vibe religion on top of something that can be explained with science.
All right. So then, what would be a supernatural vampire? Would that be like Buffy?
No, because the vampires in Buffy are repelled by the cross.
Okay.
So therefore, they are technically religious vampires. Now, as the show went along, that got whittled down, and they really didn't explain why the cross repelled them, because they didn't act like religious vampires. But when it first started off, they were religious vampires. So I'm going to stick with that.
Okay.
So basically, if it's repelled by religious symbols, holy water, basically, if they are affected by anything involving religion, whether it's Christianity or another religion, they are religious vampires. Otherwise, they are creatures of the supernatural.
So Dracula, the classic Dracula, for instance.
Classic Dracula is most definitely a religious vampire, especially if you read the book. Because the whole point of classic Dracula, Bram Stoker's Dracula, is that he's actually a corpse that has been possessed by a demon. Specifically, Vlad Tepes himself had invited this demon into his body, so he still retains his mind, and his soul is still trapped in that body. So he definitely is a religious vampire.
Which is why, again, the cross, holy water, silver, sunlight all harm him.
Oh yeah, and the get that he creates, these female thralls that he makes, they are animated corpses that feed off of human blood, and they are repelled by the cross even more so because they have no soul trapped in their bodies. The soul is trapped in purgatory, but the soul is not in the body, it's elsewhere, and it's just the demon puppeting it, and the demon just has the base urges of blood and, again, basically sex. Hence why when Lucy starts coming back at night and stalking the streets, the only thing that she does is she feeds off of children. And putty made out of the sacred wafers is all that's required to block her from entering her tomb. And holy water hurts her, and other symbols of religion hurt her.
All right, so then supernatural vampires.
Okay. Well, I would say basically supernatural vampires are vampires that
But they're magical but not religious.
Exactly. I think a lot of non-Western vampires come into this category because they're not repelled by religious symbols of that culture. They're usually things like witches or demons, or again, strange creatures that live in the wilderness, who come to prey upon just villagers, not necessarily innocents, but villagers in general. And then the villagers have to find the creature like you would find the lair of any animal that is plaguing your village and destroy it.
Okay. How about Anne Rice? What is her vampires?
Her vampires are supernatural vampires, actually, because they're not religious vampires at all. In fact, I actually really liked that plot point in the Vampire Lestat, that he comes across this coven of vampires that are living in this derelict church, and they are basically flogging themselves. We are damned. We're, God has cast us out. And he shows them in one night, no, you're not damned. You're not cast out. Look, I can touch this cross and everything is fine. I can do this and everything is fine. You're just a bunch of idiots. And in one night, he totally destroyed their way of life. And that's why Armand hated his guts, was because Armand was part of that coven, that cult, basically. And it ruined his life for the moment. And so I really loved that part of the story. But no, they are not religious vampires. They are definitely supernatural vampires because science cannot just explain what's going on. And those of you who have read the books know the progenitor of vampires. So yes, they are demonic in nature, but I would still not say it's religious because no religious symbols hold them back. And it's only demonic in the way we see it.
All right, so let's get into what are some of your favorite vampires? I mean, do you want to get into Vlad, Tepesh, and all that, or do we need to?
Vlad's actually not one of my favorites. I mean, I love the story. I've read the book like 5 times. But no, Vlad's actually not one of my favorites. I like some of the more stranger legends, like definitely the Chinese ghosts or the Chinese vampires. I love the concept of them. For those of you who are not familiar, the idea of the Chinese vampire is that God, I think it was like the 12 or 1300s. I very much so could be wrong. There was this horrible war, and there are constantly wars going on in China, but for this particular one, a lot of young men left their villages to go fight in this war. And from my understanding, Chinese culture says that you need to be buried in your village. Otherwise, your soul will never rest. Your soul will wander the earth, and you'll turn into a hungry ghost. And that's just a horrible existence for those whose bodies are basically lost. So families would pay for people to go and find the bodies of their fallen boys and bring them back to the village so that they won't be wandering ghosts. Now, I've heard 2 different versions of this legend. Either families started paying sorcerers to go find the dead bodies because they couldn't find somebody to go out there with a cart and haul them back home. I've also heard that it was a monk who thought that he was doing something right. Regardless, somebody went out to this field and started finding all the bodies and putting prayer scrolls on their foreheads that would have the name of the person and the village that they were from with certain words of power and other things like that, and that would animate the corpse. And the corpse would follow the priest or the sorcerer back to the villages, and they would do it by hopping like little bunny rabbits in a line, and doing it with the stereotypical arms in the front, hopping, doing it that way. And where the vampire part comes from is either they would lose the prayer scroll that had basically who they were as a human, or I've also heard that the sorcerer would get pissed because he either wasn't paid what was promised or he demanded more and the village wouldn't pay for it. Again, I've heard different legends. But the idea is that the prayer scrolls would be taken off of the corpses and they'd be let loose upon the countryside. And they become these ravenous beasts preying upon villagers and feasting upon specifically their blood, trying to get back some of the life force that they had lost in life. And if left too long to hunt the countryside, these things would develop a personality. They would actually develop something of a soul. And they would turn into basically a lich and become even more of a problem than just a rabid animated corpse.
Okay, so we got a question.
Okay. Victoria, what are your thoughts of the Underworld movie series?
I really liked the first one.
Yeah, the first one was great, specifically the director's cut.
Yeah, the director's cut. The other one, the theatrical cut was okay. Mm-hmm. The director's cut was great.
The director's cut was a completely different movie.
Yeah.
I mean, that was what got
And the
me.
scenes were arranged differently.
They were arranged in a way that made sense.
Okay.
No, we haven't seen any of the other ones. And considering she married the director.
And it doesn't have the same script writer.
Yeah, it doesn't have the same script writer. So basically it became a, just a way to fap off of Kate Beckinsale, which, she is quite fappable. I'm not interested in watching those films.
What? Oh, the others?
Yeah.
No, I really liked the first.
Oh yeah, no. Well, we own the first. We own the director's cut of the first.
And it's got a great soundtrack.
Oh God, yes,
It's got
it does.
Skinny Puppy on it.
Yeah. Really, which song?
I don't remember which. They made it for the film.
Oh shit, I didn't know that. That's pretty awesome. Acid trip. How much blood bags would a vampire need to drink to consume the exact amount of calories of a Waffle House waffle?
Well, you're the expert.
I'm gonna say 6.
I'm gonna say it depends. Did the blood come from someone who ate a Waffle House waffle?
In which case, all of it.
Yeah.
All of the blood. Draken, garlic, silver, etc. All of those things are related to purification, and since different cultures have different things they see as purifying, each culture has different things that defeat vampires. That is very true.
Okay, so what's your next one?
Oh, my next favorite?
Yes.
Oh, my next favorite is, no, I can't, let's see if I can find the name of it. Here, it's from the Philippines. It's the Mandurago. I believe it's the Mandurago. I'm going to say it's the Mandurago. It's also called the Aswang, but the problem with calling it the Aswang
is it sounds really like a gay sex act.
Yes, it does. Indeed,
or
it
a club. Welcome to the Aswang.
No, the Aswang, calling something an Aswang is like saying that's a supernatural creature. Aswang can apply to their vampires, their ghosts, their witches, anything that's spooky and scary that lives in the wilderness is an Aswang. So you can't really call it that, but I believe the specific term I'm looking for is the Mandurago. If not, it's the Mananangay. Either way, I'm going to call it the Mandurago. The Mandurago is a...
You're part Filipino. How can you get this wrong?
Because I failed Spanish. How about that?
Actually, I think that's Tagali, but
yeah,
anyway.
It's Tagali. Yeah, it is Tagali. That's very true. But the Mandurago is basically a witch, or now either the witch has always been a witch, or the witch was a human and became a witch. I'm not entirely sure. It can be either one. I think it depends on which island specifically you're getting the legend from, because that's the other thing, is that what I'm going to talk about is the generic story, not the specifics, because each island has their own specifics for it. But this is a creature that feeds on human blood. Specifically, they are a shapeshifter that comes out of the wilderness and finds a man and seduces him into marrying her, and then she sucks the life out of him. Out
of his part?
No, actually, I believe it's out of his neck. Their tongues have suction cups on them, and they latch onto you and suck the life out of you. Or actually, it's more on the neck.
Isn't that Demon City Shinjuku?
Kinda, yeah. And Lollycat. Anyway, and one thing that this creature can do to escape capture or to hunt down its prey is it can detach its legs and fly around as this torso with a head and bat wings, or sometimes bird wings, and fly around town with its entrails dangling down.
Well, then I've got to bring this one up here.
Okay. Have you heard of the Malaysian Panagalian? It's a flying head vampire. Yes, I have heard of that one.
It's the same thing, right?
It's pretty much the same thing. It's very similar. I believe.
So Mystic Bali.
Yeah, Mystic Knights in Bali. I believe this is the one.
That is so weird.
That yeah, it's very similar to the flying head, and its entire organ structure is hanging down.
And,
but that one, I think, hunts for lungs. It'll also eat babies.
No, it'll stick its mouth up to pregnant women's cooches and suck out the fetus.
Well, it'll do that too, but it also wants lungs. I don't know why.
Okay, so keep going.
Yeah, basically you have to hunt this thing down and completely destroy its body in order to make it disappear. Elias, have you seen or heard about how vampires sparkle in Twilight? If so, what are your reactions to it? They are not vampires. I am first time seeing it in theaters. I almost busted a gut. I have to admit, Elias, when I first heard that the vampires twinkle, I could not believe it. Like, no, this is not real. I'm trying to think of ways how, like, are they twinkling spookily? Is it like something where it lets them blend in with the night sky and that's how they can twinkle? It's like, no, this is during the day. It's like, what? Like,
I don't know.
Like, I don't understand that. I mean, in most legends, the thing of them bursting into flames when going into the sunlight, that's relatively new. That's within the last 100 years or so. The vampires in Western mythology, when exposed to sunlight, or just in general during the daytime, because the day is for God and it's holy, they revert back to being corpses.
Well, it's the sun itself is holy light.
Well, the sun itself is holy light.
Which is why UV bulbs wouldn't work on a religious vampire. Exactly.
But even in like Bram Stoker's books, there's a scene where Jonathan Harker takes the lid off of Dracula's coffin, and the corpse is there, and it's dark in this old church that he finds the coffin in, and so there's no sunlight at all. But he takes the lid off the coffin, and it's just a corpse laying there. But he can tell, he can feel the presence under the surface. It pissed at him being there. But the corpse could do nothing because it's just a corpse. It's daylight.
Okay.
LK, I think it was Dracula 2000 that had the idea that vampires were descendants of Judas Iscariot.
Wasn't that in Vampire the Masquerade, though?
No. It is from Vampire that it's one of the not bloodlines, but one of the paths that you can take. I think it's the path of holiness, in fact, that was founded by Judas, trying to make up for what it was that he had done. But vampires did not come from Judas. Vampires come from Lilith. And that's definitely from legend. That goes back to...
well, she birthed a whole bunch of monsters and demons, was the legend.
In Mesopotamia, what's her name? Her name is Lilith, but it's not... They don't call her Lilith.
The mother of monsters was Echidna, wasn't it?
The mother of monsters was Echidna, but in Mesopotamia, they call her... It's like Lila. It's very close to Lilith, but it's Lila. Lilitu. Lilitu, who later evolved into being Lilith. It was said that once she was cast into the wilderness, she was feeding upon specifically the babies of mankind. So if you had a stillborn, or if your baby suddenly disappeared into the night, it was because Lilith or Lilitu had nabbed it. And in Vampire the Masquerade, they took that story and said that she was the first vampire.
Okay.
And many say that Lilitu was the first vampire.
Well, Kat?
Kat, what are your thoughts on vampires versus werewolf rivals? What causes the rival? Well, it really depends on who you're talking to. If you're talking those who play Vampire the Masquerade, or if you're going on those who follow the legends say that basically vampires and werewolves are hunting in the same hunting ground. That they're both stalking the same prey, which is unwary humans who are left out at
So
night.
it's just a competitor thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
But to be honest, I haven't come across any legends saying that vampires and werewolves
Yeah, that
actually
came about
hated
later.
each other. That's something extremely recent. That's definitely within the last 50 years. I would say maybe within the last 40.
I thought it came about because, there were competing film franchises.
Well, that too. But, remember the universal monsters, both werewolves and vampires, are coming from the same place. So really, I think it's a natural idea to think that these two species were fighting each other. So I really don't think that they were fighting. In fact, in Bram Stoker's Dracula, he has it that the wolves are subservient to Dracula.
Yeah.
So in fact, and it is part of the legend that wolves will come at a vampire's call. And then, of course, there are the stories of vampires being known shapeshifters to turn into wolves, bats, birds, a swarm of insects. The smog or the fog one, that's relatively recent. Mostly it will turn into various animals. Victoria, what's your thoughts on Dampiers, the half human, half vampire, when it comes to vampire lords? Well, again, it depends on what you're referencing. I personally absolutely love Vampire Hunter D, and I like the idea that vampires could sire offspring if given the opportunity. I don't think in his series or in that series they say that women can get pregnant, which I'm also pretty happy about. And I have to definitely give, yes, I'm going to say it, Laurel K. Hamilton, because the first 3 books of her series were actually good. They were actually detective novels in a paranormal world that was very interesting that I wanted to play in, and then she turned it all into porn. But she was talking about Vlad syndrome, and with Vlad syndrome, the idea is that a male vampire could, if given the right stimulus and he wasn't too old, could reinvigorate whatever sperm was left over from when he was alive and inseminate a woman. The problem is that sometimes you'd get a normal, healthy baby. Sometimes you'd get this flesh-eating ghoul type creature that would eat its way out of the mother, and it needed to be put down. So I liked that idea.
So was it also like, if you had Vlad syndrome, was it like a one-shot wonder? It's like after that one go, sorry, dude, you're done?
It's however much a load you shoot. However much you have, that's what you have to shoot.
Okay.
Imported Emperor, what about letting a vampire into your home? Is that a European thing or a Chinese thing?
It's a European thing, and for the Chinese one, actually, that's why they have those weird mazes and designs in front of the houses to confuse the vampire.
Yeah, because it gets caught in there and it gets lost, especially when it's still in its mindless state, because it really doesn't know what to do. Now, once it gets past that state and it's started developing a personality and a mind of its own, then that doesn't work and you're kind of screwed. But of course, at that point, it's no longer a vampire, it's turning into a lich. So,
or a demon in their mythology, right?
No, it's actually not a demon.
Oh, okay.
I mean, in my readings, it was not called a demon. It was actually called a sorcerer of the undead. That's a lich. So, I mean, yes, And I say it's a lich because they are dead themselves, otherwise it would be a necromancer. But anyway, are there vampires in Egyptian mythology? Now, that one is interesting. I actually have not found much. Let me see real quick in my notes.
Oh yeah, do you have one more you wanted to talk about, or?
No, there are, strangely enough, there are no vampires in Egyptian mythology. And you would think that, especially since so much, especially from Anne Rice, has come out about how, there are vampires in Egypt. But no, really they're not. If you were to pick any ancient culture, it's Mesopotamia, and then that goes into Greece. The Greeks had vampire legends. Theirs, they turned into birds. Greeks and Romans, they had them where they turned into birds, and in fact, they looked like giant evil crows.
Oh, that's cool.
That would come and suck the life out of you. I mean, it's pretty badass, actually. Ricky Joya, which Universal Dracula do you like better, English with Lugosi or the Spanish with Carlos Valarius?
Oh, come on. Lugosi's like the guy.
Yeah. I mean,
the other is Carlos Valario. He was actually overacting.
He was.
So those scenes were pretty funny.
I mean, it was actually great watching the Spanish version.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it was a totally different film with a different actor. It was weird. Without Lugosi, the tone was totally different. He made that film.
He did. He really did. But so yeah, it's not that the Spanish version was bad. It was just
Bella, man. How do you want to do Bella?
It's Bella. Nobody to this day has been able to top Bella, and that's not an over exaggeration or just saying, oh, the oldest was the best. No, Bella is the best. Oh, and I watched the clip from Twilight where they were playing baseball, and it was the dumbest thing I've ever seen, and not in a fun way. I agree completely.
Fucking retarded.
That entire film was stupid, and the one chick had like spider sense to let them know just when it was dramatically appropriate, when shit was about to hit the fan. Her power was completely worthless otherwise. It was only there to let you know when it was dramatically appropriate for something to happen. What?
This is funny.
Well, yeah, her power was totally worthless.
Okay, so we're coming up on the hour here. Is there any more vampire myths you want to talk about?
Oh, I can talk about. Actually, I find the European history and lore of vampires very fascinating. It's considering how much of European, specifically Eastern European culture, developed and revolved around this idea of the dead coming back and harassing the living. Either, what was his name? Give me a second. There were two specific stories from the 1700s, specifically 1721 in East Prussia. I'm sorry, 1725, and the other one was in 1734, where you had two gentlemen, Peter Baglovich and Arnold Paoli from Serbia, who were both said to have died and to have come back to life to harass their family and the people in their villages, and the villages had to go and unearth their corpses and destroy them. One specifically, he went back to his son's house and demanded food, and when his son said, "No, you're dead," next day they found the son dead, and other people in the village started getting terrorized by who they thought was Arnold Paoli. So, and it just from there, those are the two oldest recorded stories of vampirism, and it turned into this obsession, and it swept throughout Eastern Europe and into the rest of Europe. This obsession with the idea that vampires are plaguing cemeteries, and that came from that developed into what we see today, where you still have graveyards that have bells or the remnants of bells hanging from sticks outside of, directly outside of where the coffin was buried, or they'll unearth these forgotten cemeteries and find that there's stakes in the bodies, and it's all relates back to this epidemic that came about after specifically these two gentlemen supposedly came back to life. And that hysteria even went into the 1800s. I'm sorry, throughout the 1700s, there was even a particular historian that was cataloging every story that he could get his hands on. I was a French historian and scholar, getting as many stories as he possibly could, and it's from his stories that Voltaire wrote the philosophical dictionary from. And from that, Voltaire had to write, these vampires were corpses who went out of their graves at night to suck the blood of the living, either at their throats or stomachs, after which they returned to their cemeteries. The person so sucked waned, grew pale, and fell into consumption, while the sucking corpse grew fat, got rosy, and enjoyed an excellent appetite. It was in Poland, Hungary, Silesia, Moravia, Austria, and Lorraine that the dead made this good cheer.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and it's from these writings that you then get a lot of the text that has become the beginnings of the modern day vampiric legend. So I just find this stuff absolutely fascinating. And the practice of staking corpses actually ended with the Empress Maria Theresa of Austria, who had one of her physicians go and investigate one of these claims of vampirism and said that it was bullshit. And so she outlawed the practice afterwards.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
And so, yeah, I mean, I could talk even more about it, but that very beginning, those beginning times, especially finding out that even Voltaire wrote about it, I found absolutely fascinating.
Okay, well, we're down to the last 8 minutes of the show.
Okay.
Is there anything you would like to mention?
Oh, I could talk even further about it if you really wanted me to, but I think we've got questions.
Here we go.
JK, is Elizabeth...
LK.
Sorry, LK. God,
LK.
I'm tired. I'm sorry. I've had a long day. Is Elizabeth Bathory part of the vampire lore or just a seriously messed up person?
I think she's the she's the template for the modern celebrity.
Well, I believe you've also said that she's a reptoid, so yes. Actually, speaking of, I will have to bring in one thing, and that is...
So you really like this one, eh, Ricky?
And that is, in my research on vampires, I of course came across a series of different types of creatures that exhibit vampiric tendencies but are not considered vampires in the way that we think of them, at least here in the West. And you'll never guess who cropped up again.
Who?
An old friend of yours.
Walter?
Yes. Walter apparently made his way to New Orleans. And I found this legend linked up with the chupacabra, where a lizard-like creature, 3 to 4 feet tall, with gray skin, who can use tools and open doors, has been known to suck the blood off of farm animals.
Fucking Walter!
And that's
God
in
damn it.
New Orleans. That's the Grunch Monster.
Grunch Monster. Oh, yeah, that's a fitting name for the little bastard.
Yeah. So So Walter popped back up again.
Fucking Walter. You know, he is an embarrassment to my species.
And I swear, the only reason why they said he got gray skin is he's probably like unbathed, unwashed. Probably just, you know, fucking shingles or something. So, you looking for another one?
Oh, no. I was just...
Right.
So, okay, audience. You like the camera? You like seeing us? Or should we just go back to this?
I think they like us. I think they like us very much.
Like us very much?
Yes, I think they like us very much.
Question.
Victoria, do you think the reason that Hollywood makes vampires sexy is because it's like power fantasy where you're sexy and powerful at the same time? I think they know it because it will put female butts in seats and make them wet.
Yeah, I think women just like being bitten.
Yeah, definitely. I think, you know, they know that guys will see a hot vampire chick, especially if she either has huge tits or huge guns, and women will sit in the seat as long as it's a hot guy who can look at her moodily.
Okay, Wolf, you said we sound muffled. How about now? Do I sound muffled now? Give me an answer.
Let me move closer.
So, yeah, I don't know. I've noticed that myself. If anyone can give us any advice on how to get the Yeti here to pick us up a little better, advice would be much appreciated. I've noticed that myself.
Maybe we should just invest in one of those arms.
That's what we need.
Mm-hmm. Dark Stranger, evening Ishi and Kat. A bit off topic, but seeing this much of real life Ishi, I have to say, man, I appreciate salute your scowling dad look. Also, you guys doing this style is great. Awesome.
So I look like a dad, huh?
Well, you are a rat dad.
Okay, let's see.
Kana Thighs, hey, can you guys do a vampire stream part 2? Certainly. I've got enough material. Probably do 3.
Yeah, you're kind of obsessed with vampires.
I am.
Okay.
Wolf 10, remember the Bacchae from Xena and Young Hercules? Yes, I do. I do remember the Bacchae from Xena and Young Hercules. Although, to be honest, I didn't watch Young Hercules. I just watched Xena.
Young Hercules?
Yeah, there was a Young Hercules. For a short time.
Who played Hercules?
Somebody else.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why I didn't watch it. I thought that it was cashing in too much, so I didn't bother. But yeah, I definitely remember that one, and Gabrielle turned into a Bacchae for a short time. John Ivantaro, on a completely different note, you two look like you could cosplay Leon S. Kennedy and Claire Redfield.
I don't even know who those people are.
Yeah, let us know who those are.
Let me write that down.
I'm going to take that as a compliment.
And
brain fried. There you go. Claire Redfield.
oh wait, are those the characters from Resident Evil?
I honestly don't know. I don't think so.
All right, well, let's call it a night.
Dark Stranger says more vampire streams are good. Just please no Sparkle. No Sparkle. This will be a Sparkle-free
Fuck the
zone.
Sparkles. We can do a rant on Sparkles. You can talk about how much you hate them.
Yeah. You know what? That'll be it. The next time we do it, we'll label it Sparkle-free zone.
Sparkle-free zone.
This is a glitter-free zone.
All right. Well, good night, everyone. Thank you for joining us, and hope you enjoyed the adventure into darkness.
Definitely. Check out the web store on tpublic.com, where you can get this lovely alien head shirt, as well as other merch for the Big Alien Show. Yep. Well, it won't say head trauma.
It's a great big alien show.
Yes, it'll definitely say Great Big Alien Show. Please support us on Subscribestar, or just link and share our episodes. That would be wonderful. And thank you all so much for joining us this evening.
Good night.